get real, child. Let's get real.
Hi, I hope you'll stay with me for this whole show. I don't know if this is the first episode of my podcast that you've watched, or if you're a happy viewer that's wondering what I'm going to say next. Because let me tell you something, friends. I don't have much of an idea of what I'm going to say. I'm just inspired with good words and good thoughts that just come to me in abundance. And I'm writing or talking so much of the time. I just don't like being idle. I don't like driving in the car without talking, so I call people and talk on the phone all the time. God's blessed me with big ideas and big inventions. And you may say, well, that sounds kind of bold. How can you say that God has inspired you? Well, friends, if big ideas come to me that people kind of go, wow, and I don't have any memory of where it came from, or don't really have any memory after I've said it, I won't remember what I'm telling you in this podcast after I'm done. I'm like a river of ideas just flowing out. And once they're gone, they're gone. And I feel inspired. I feel called to a prophetic ministry of preaching repentance in all things. I know that sounds bold, but that's what God has laid on my heart. I've got the ability. I've got the freedom of schedule. I'm now at a point in my life where my kids are grown. So if evil takes me out, it's not a tragedy for a young child to lose a parent. I'm getting to the age at 65 where friends are dying and having big health complications. You know, this myth that everybody's going to live to be 90 in big health and everything's going great because my father lived to be 94. Well, let me tell you, friends, my dad grew up before refrigerators, had an ice box as a kid in a small town, and they had a milk cow and chickens. And their idea of a chicken dinner was going out and butchering the chicken and cooking it for dinner. Or when you had milk, it was fresh milk right from the cow. I think they probably pasteurized it because milk-borne disease is a real problem and really afflicted people back in earlier America. But friends, I don't have any illusions that I'm going to last as long as my dad, because I haven't had that strong, tough upbringing, eating really good quality food. You know, I've eaten a lot of processed food. I've been slothful. I wasn't walking a mile to school or 2 miles to school like he was. My dad was in an affluent family growing up in the Depression. So literally a servant walked with him to school. The servant wasn't allowed to drive, and people didn't drive short distances back then. There wasn't a carpool line. So all the school year, this rich young man with servants and all this walked his way to school. That's a tough upbringing. And friends, my dad was a tough guy. Depression era baby, grew up seeing their town was 16,000 and had 12,000 hobos living right outside of town. It was a railroad town. So tough stuff. So this is the kind of stories you'll hear if you stay tuned into my podcast. I cover a lot of issues, and stick with me, because if you don't like what I'm talking about right now, in a little bit, I'll be talking about something else that's going to hopefully be interesting to you and give you some insights about how radically changed our world is and how we can make our world much better with my climate program to make the world carbon negative while we end world hunger and end growing deserts and end forest fires. Friends, forest fires are an example of man's bad management of the forest, of our neglect of just letting forests fill up with dead wood so that when there is a fire, it's a catastrophic fire, the equivalent of putting 10 or 20,000 gallons of gasoline per acre. So the fire is just horrendous with flames going up hundreds of feet in the air and just burning trees to a crisp because there's so much dead wood in the forest. Nature's plan is frequent fires that kind of keep the understory burned out so the big trees don't die. But man, by stopping forest fires, putting them out so they don't burn out regularly. So my plan is to go in with an aerial harvesting mechanism, a new design of airship that literally plucks the dead wood out of the forest and converts it to God's wonderful invention of biochar, which the ancient Middle American people used to support a huge population with sustainable agriculture. So we need to make lots of biochar and put it on all our depleted land. So we need to remove all the dead wood from the forest and convert it to biochar so that it doesn't go back into the air as carbon dioxide. A dead tree is a carbon emitter, not a carbon sequester. A sick tree is oftentimes a carbon emitter instead of a carbon sequester because a sick tree doesn't grow, barely stays alive, has a few leaves on it, is struggling to live. Not a vital, healthy, vigorous tree that's getting bigger and growing taller and sequestering tons of carbon in the form of stable wood. So we need to take care of our forest friends. We need to remineralize them. We need to make some of that biochar and put it back on the forest to sequester nutrients and store water and serve as a home for microbes. But most of the biochar needs to go into the desert and into fertile lands to make them more nutritious and better and create better food. Friends, I'm a radical thinker. My mind is on fire with ideas. Like I say, I started this broadcast without an idea what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about my program and what I'm trying to work on and why you should watch all the episodes, why you should be a supporting member. Because friends, without money, this messaging gets to almost nobody. I need a cute co-host to distract from my facial contortions, from my drug-induced little grimaces and stuff you see on me. I'm sorry about that. It breaks my heart that I have to take medication that has this side effect of unintentional body movements. But friends, I need to take it to sleep, and I'm mentally healthy because of it. But these drugs have side effects. We need to work hard as a society to come up with treatments that don't have bad side effects. And eliminating side effects need to be one of the primary goals of drug companies. One of my proposals is that we need to have, now that we have the web and the capability of big data to store everything, we need everybody who takes a drug to be able to comment about their life and create a huge database so that we know exactly how many people have a complication, how many people are better. We need much more data to know what's the good treatment. And frankly, friends, one of the treatments for mental disorders that saved my life is my faith. I suffer from manic depression, and when I was untreated, I had depression so dark that I wouldn't flip a light switch to stay alive. I was just desperately depressed. But my faith made me realize God doesn't want me to kill myself, and I need to fight through it and fight through that dark depression. So that's what we need, a lot more strong faith, a lot more belief that there's something bigger than ourselves, and we can make a big difference. Now, friends, I hope you'll stick with me. I hope my facial contortions don't bother you. I'm very conscious of it, watching the monitor, but take care and please listen and watch to what I say and don't think, gosh, what's wrong with this guy? One guy watched one of my videos and thought I was a drunk because I have these contortions like some alcoholics do, but I don't drink hardly at all. I do enjoy a drink or two occasionally, but I hate to feel bad, so I never drink to the point of any impairment. So I believe moderation is important. I think, that a little is good, a lot is bad. It's like salt. A little salt is essential for life. The Bible talks about salt being essential, and it is, but a lot of salt will kill you and cause all kinds of health problems. And we have too much salt in our food that's embedded in it where it doesn't really taste salty, but it makes us have that hidden desire to eat it, like potato chips, etc. Take care, and I hope you'll watch us, and I hope you'll support us with our membership page on getrealtv.com. I hope you'll go to my other websites, getrealalliance.org, which talks more about my climate book and has a little more content on it. Please support us. Please share us. And join us on social media. We're on all the major social media sites, and we need more members. You know, members are power, and help us have an outreach and get the word out. We need more people to watch our videos, watch our views. You know, we've got videos on Facebook. You may be watching, on YouTube. You may be watching on YouTube and saying, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't have any views. Well, frankly, friends, YouTube is very biased against conservative Christian messaging, and I think they deliberately undercount views. I had a TV show a number of years ago. Some of the episodes are still on getrealtv.com as old TV show segments you can watch. But I would have 50 subscribers to my channel, and guess how many views they would say I had? 2 or 3. So how does that work? Do they just not notify people of the new episodes? These are people that say they want to watch my content. So if I have 50 followers, I should have 50 views instead of 3. Anyway, and I would watch a segment because, frankly, friends, segments are new to me because I don't remember what I say. So I'm thrilled to hear them go, wow, that's some pretty good content. But anyway, YouTube wouldn't register my view moving the counter up. And they didn't know it was me. I just logged in as a stranger. So I think YouTube is biased against traditional values and conservative messaging. Now, I'm not a conservative in the traditional sense. I'm a libertarian Christian who is unhappy with politicians from both parties, and I vote for the least bad, and I support the least bad. I support people like some of the people you will see on my podcast, not because I agree with them 100%, but they're just the best of 2 bad choices. Then usually they're much better than the alternative in terms of, as a libertarian Christian, I'm for a much smaller government. So anybody that believes we need to expand government is my enemy. And so I usually vote. I used to vote libertarian, but I felt like I was kind of wasting my vote because they were never going to get more than 1 or 2%. And I thought the issues are so critical that the Democratic left, which runs our government with only token opposition from a few Republicans, and what we've seen, friends, like with this latest budget bill, where the GOP totally abdicated the capability to take a strong stand and instead went along with the deep state, which is almost entirely Democratic, passing this bipartisan mega bill with tons of pork in it for all the politicians to be able to tell their districts, hey, I got you this park, I got you this walkway to nowhere, all these other pork barrel projects to make politicians look good. So they give everybody in Congress who votes with this plan some little bit of pork they can use to get reelected, saying, look, I'm doing this for the district. And I think it's good to do things for your district, but it's bad to do things for your district if it's basically stealing other people's money in other parts of the country for something that's really kind of pointless and maybe appeals to a tiny little small interest, you know. So is it worth going deeper in debt? where we're borrowing an extra $1 trillion every 100 days to have a bunch of pork, to fund a bunch of corruption in Ukraine. Now, I'm all for giving the Ukrainians weapons, but I'm also strongly interested in them getting real about Russia and what Russia wants. And what Russia wants is not to be invaded, not to be attacked in their homeland. We forget the Russian history of the last 200 years. They've been attacked brutally by Europe, by Napoleon, and by Hitler, who caused massive losses in Russia, and only the vicious Russian winter and the Russians' willingness to sacrifice huge numbers of people kept them from being overthrown by the imperial might of Napoleon and then later Hitler, who wanted to take out Russia. Anyway, the world history is a dark and sordid place, friends, and we have no need for conflict. We have no need for any killing of anybody for political reasons. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't know that in the ancient past, one of my interesting life segments was that my first marriage was to a woman whose grandfather was the Texas Ranger, who was kind of an example of one riot, one ranger. And my ex-father-in-law, now long deceased, has been nearly 40 years ago, told me that his father walked into a town where the mob had put the sheriff in jail and was taking the town over, overthrowing law and order. This one ranger walked into the town, a huge man, 6'4", 300, at a time when the average man was only 5'8", with his multiple guns on his holsters. He walks out in front of this mob and says, "There's too many of you all. Will 10 of you step up and let's shoot it out?" And guess what they did? The mob dispersed. Nobody's willing to stand up to this man and take a chance of getting killed. So that's what you call one riot, one ranger. There wasn't any big overthrow. He calmed that town down, released the sheriff from jail, restored order in the town. One man, one riot. What do we have in America? We have a situation where the police are literally beaten and not able to forcibly fight back. They have to wrestle violent criminals. Well, guess what? A violent criminal loves to fight and loves to wrestle and struggle, especially if they know they're not going to be killed. If you fight in a bar, you may be killed. The guy may pull a gun out and shoot you. But the police are so scared of being thrown in jail for shooting somebody, they get beat up and lose control, and it takes 3 or 4 cops to subdue one person. Well, friends, I don't know. I think people need to be damn scared of the police. They need to be damn respectful of the police. And I'm personally, as a Christian libertarian, wanting respect for law and order to be a crime that gets punished nearly instantly by taking someone who's rude to the police in front of a judge that day, offering them 2 choices. They can plead guilty to being rude and violent to the police, even being rude and disrespectful, not obeying an order, not obeying the police, saying, "Please, sir, step out of the car." I think that should be a crime that is punished by a month in the desert, digging water-conserving holes to help restore the desert to health. We need to dig a hole every foot or 2 in the desert floor, about the size of a dinner plate and about 3 inches deep. So when it rains, instead of having a flash flood, that inch of rain goes into those little depressions and soaks into that tough, hardened ground that can't soak any water up. So this would eliminate flash floods and eliminate soil erosion in the desert. And if you plant a little tree or a little desert plant in the bottom of that hole where it gets that extra water, you can restore desert areas back to vegetation to do what? Sequester carbon. Yes, deserts are kind of a hybrid thing. They sequester no carbon, and because of oxidation, all the soil organic matter has gone back into the air. So if 1,000,000 acres goes to desert a year, that's tons of carbon dioxide being released into the air as those tons of soil organic matter and plant matter degrade back into carbon dioxide in the air. So, 1 ton of carbon in the soil turns into 3 tons of carbon dioxide in the air. So one of the reasons why carbon dioxide rises in the air is because of a lack of vegetation. We have so much bare dirt. We have a practice of not keeping green things growing on the soil. So soil stays bare and the soil life starving to death because they don't have any plant roots feeding them, eat the carbon out of the soil and turn it back into carbon dioxide. So I'm a radical, rational guy. I can't stand irrational thought. I can't stand people saying the only way we can solve the carbon dioxide issue is by cutting emissions. Friend, if you got too much of something, getting a little more doesn't solve the problem. You've got to actually shrink the amount in the air. And the way to do that is with God's creation, the miracle of photosynthesis. We just got to have more of it. We got to fight the deserts hard. The government is mismanaging the deserts badly here in America in so many ways. One of the worst ways is the white settlers' habit of homesteading the fertile land in a valley while leaving the rest of the land, quote, national land, but freely using it and turning their extra horses out on the government land to run wild, and then going out and rounding them up every year and pulling the good horses out. So they would take an old horse that was too old to do work and just turn it out. The horse might have another colt, but if the colt was a good looking colt, they would round up all the horses and strip out the young horses that were good and vital and use them on the farm. So that was a way of maximizing the production of their small amount of homesteaded valley land by not having horses that were unproductive on the land. They used the federal land, the public land, as their playground for their animals. And if you're a sentimental person like ranchers can be about their animals, you don't want to kill the horse when they get old. I don't know if you've ever been around putting an animal down, but it's a hard thing to kill a big animal like a horse. I mean, it's tough. And I had a badly injured horse that was totally crippled and unrepairable. And the vet came out and had me hold the rope on the halter. And he said, okay, be ready to step away. And I thought, what are you talking about? This is a big horse. He gave that horse those shots. And by golly, he was right. When he put that second shot in, he said, get back. And that horse fell like dead wood. I mean, it killed him instantly, but just like shooting an animal, instant death, just knocking them in the head, they're gone. But anyway, I've had a colorful, interesting life, and I hope you'll stay tuned, and I really hope you'll support us at getrealtv.com and share this channel for Get Real content. I'm a get real guy. You can tell from the stories I've told today that I am not your average guy. I've had some wild experiences. I've learned some wild things. I've been around some very interesting people that have made me the person I am. So I'm a lot of fun to listen to and talk to, and I hope you'll tune in again. Thank you for staying with me, and I hope you have a great day and make the most of every day because none of us know how many we have. Take care.